All right, let's dive into something you might have actually felt yourself, even if you couldn't put a name to it. We're talking about the Tetris Effect. It's this wild phenomenon that shows us just how deeply a simple little game can get in there and actually start to rewire our brains.
This line from a Wired article way back in 1994 just nails it. It captures this really specific, kind of strange experience that millions of people have had. That feeling that the game isn't really over when you turn it off. Nope, it follows you.
I mean, think about it for a second. Have you ever been playing a game for hours and then you close your eyes to go to sleep and you can still see it? Or maybe you've been at the grocery store and you find yourself instinctively trying to figure out how to stack the cans perfectly on the shelf, just like Tetris blocks?
If that sounds even vaguely familiar, well, you're not going crazy. You've had a first-hand experience with what scientists officially call the Tetris Effect. And yeah, it's named after that legendary game that made this whole brain quirk a thing.
And here's the thing, it's not just about Tetris, it's about any activity you get really, really into. It could be coding or playing an instrument or even something like rock climbing. Your brain gets so laser focused on the pattern of that activity that it just keeps running the simulation, even when you've stopped.
So what's actually going on here? How is it possible that a video game can literally change what you see when you close your eyes? Well, to solve the mystery of the Phantom game, we have to look at your brain on Tetris. Okay, so when you first start playing, your brain is working like crazy. It's a brand new, complicated task. And scientists can actually see this. They've measured what they call cerebral glucose metabolic rates, which is just a fancy way of saying your brain's energy use. And for new players, it's through the roof.
But this is where it gets so cool. After just a few weeks of practice, that energy usage plummets right back down to normal. But get this, the players' scores are way, way higher. Their performance has shot up. So the brain literally learned how to play the game better while using way less energy.
This is just a perfect example of what's called neuroplasticity in action. Your brain is malleable. So first, it burns a ton of fuel to figure out a new task. Then it physically starts rewiring itself, creating more efficient pathways for that specific skill. And finally, the task becomes almost automatic. It's second nature. And we know some of the specifics here. Playing Tetris is a major workout for your visuospatial working memory. That's the part of your brain that lets you picture and move shapes around in your head. Studies have even shown that it can physically increase the thickness of your cortex in the parts of the brain that plan movement. The game literally builds a better brain to play itself. How wild is that?
So, our brains adapt. That seems logical enough. But then the research took a turn that revealed something completely mind-bending, something that challenges our whole idea of what a memory even is.
Seriously, just try to wrap your head around this question. Could you have vivid, detailed dreams of falling blocks, but have absolutely zero conscious memory of ever playing the game? I mean, it sounds impossible, right? Well, it's not. In a landmark study back in 2000, researchers at Harvard had patients with severe amnesia, people who couldn't form new memories, play Tetris for hours. And later, they had no recollection of it. None. They couldn't tell you they played a game, who taught them, what room they were in. It was all gone. And yet, when they were falling asleep, they reported seeing images of falling blocks. They were dreaming about Tetris.
This was a huge discovery. It proved that the Tetris effect isn't a memory of an event, like I remember playing a game. It's a procedural memory, the memory of how to do something. It's the exact same kind of memory you use to ride a bike. Your body just knows how. The patterns of the game were burned into a part of their brain so deep that conscious thought couldn't even get to.
So once scientists knew that Tetris could implant these incredibly powerful visual patterns deep inside the brain, it led them to an absolutely brilliant question. If the game can write new images into our minds, could it maybe overwrite harmful ones? And this is where the story takes a really hopeful and amazing turn. Researchers started to seriously investigate if this simple little block game could be used as a therapeutic tool for people suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD.
The results have been pretty stunning. Multiple studies have found that if people play Tetris shortly after a traumatic event, they experience significantly fewer intrusive memories, those painful, unwanted flashbacks. It seems like the visual demands of the game basically compete for bandwidth in the brain, making it harder for those traumatic images to get locked in.
And its power doesn't stop there. Just look at this. Other studies found that playing Tetris for as little as 3 minutes could dramatically reduce cravings for things like food, nicotine, and other drugs. Why? Because it occupies your brain's visual scratch pad. It makes it physically harder for you to conjure up an image of that thing you're craving, which takes away its power. So, as you can see, the Tetris effect was really just the tip of the iceberg. As games got more and more immersive, researchers realized we needed a much bigger, broader term to describe all the ways these digital worlds were starting to seep into our real one.
And that term is Game Transfer Phenomena, or GTP. It was coined by a researcher named Angelica Ortiz de Gortari, and it's basically an umbrella term for all the ways gaming can bleed into our real-world senses, thoughts, and even our automatic behaviors.
GTP can be internal, like hearing a game's soundtrack in your head when it's quiet. Or it can be external and get a little weirder, like for a split second you might actually see a game's interface, like a health bar, floating over a real person. It can even affect your behavior, like thinking about a real-life problem using game logic or having a bit of game slang just pop out of your mouth.
You can really see how our understanding has grown over time, right? It started with artists and poets trying to describe this weird feeling in the 80s. It got its name in the 90s. The science behind it was blown wide open with that amnesia study in 2000, and now it's evolved into this much broader field of study. Which really brings us to the big, final thought here. We've just seen how a simple game of falling blocks can physically change the structure of our brains, implant memories that exist outside of our own consciousness, and even be used to help heal trauma.
So the question I want to leave you with is this. If that's what a simple game from the 80s can do, what are our other, much more immersive, much more constant digital habits doing to our brains right now? In an age of infinite scroll and virtual reality and non-stop notifications, what patterns are we burning into our own minds every single day? It's definitely something to think about.